spirit in these metallic and silicon jungles. And
Okay, I'm going to run this. I think I've got this right, but I think I had an accidental stream, so I'm hoping that this comes back. Can you tell me if it does? I think it is. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? I'm here, yes? Am I? Just wanted to check because I'm sort of. I had an accidental stream. That sounds like some sort of incontinence, doesn't it? But I suppose it was. Digital incontinence. There's some show titles right there. Yeah, I'm back. Okay. Jolly good. And we have levels. I've got internet, interwebs. Okay. Good. I've probably gone a bit early because I haven't got much to say. It's amazing how the summer just this summer specifically seems to be very quiet in terms of news. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Maybe levels, all right. Yeah, got that up. Digital incontinence. Right, I'm going to put that in as a possible show title. Excuse me. The URL has changed. Has it? Okay. What is the URL? I would love to know. Let me check. That's that, is it? Okay. I beg your pardon then, everybody. Excuse me. Where's the flipping? Ah, there we go. Okay, I should be able to fix that. Oh, God. Too many windows. Facebook. Right, let's see if we can get... Do beg your pardon. Right, I'll have to... So now I have to change a couple of things. Right, okay. I understand. And I need to put that in there. That's the problem with it, because I hate scheduling stuff because it doesn't give you any leeway. But if you go live and there's an an unscheduled stop in the stream, then you can end up with multiple things. So I'm just gonna. Girls and guys who need help. Have you thought? Have you thought about the? Um, what am I trying to say? The Focusrite Scarlett 18i20. I think that is about 450 UK pounds, about $600 maybe. Okay, 583. Right, so we've got that. I think I might have. I'm just trying to add videos. Oh, video library. No. I was just testing to see if Facebook was working, and I obviously blew it, which was a bit foolish. Right, so now I can add. Yeah, the Scarlett's quite good. It doesn't have DC coupled ins and outs though. Go live. That's right, isn't it? Sonic Talk 583 live stream. So where is Restream? Restream should be custom Facebook. Is it still not working, Facebook? That is so annoying. Okay. Looks like Facebook's going to be out of the picture again. I can't be bothered with it. It's a really annoying, annoyingly fiddly at the moment. Sorry about that. I will try and remember to upload it. Marculus, I should say via the chat room, I just reviewed it. That's why I brought it up, because I've literally just reviewed it. We do stream on Twitch as well. Twitch is here. I think I can paste these in. I don't know. I'll paste these in the URLs. So you can watch either of those if you want. So what's been happening this week? Well, I've just discovered my my parents-in-law are getting a little bit old and infirm, and my mother-in-law has just hurt her arm, so she can't use the phone. So obviously at night when she's in bed, she kind of gets a bit worried in case she can't call anybody, in case anything happens. Not that it ever does. So I figured out how to link an Alexa to her mobile phone account, which means that she could just shout out in the night, call, Nick or whatever, and it will ring my phone using her mobile account without having to have a smartphone. So I'm very pleased about that. I think she's going to get on with that. What's the other thing I've done? It's Dominic.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good.
Oh, you're branded up today. Look at him go.
Do you think that's too subtle?
I was thinking maybe you could have a baseball hat or a. No, that's fine. Keep it on there. No, go for it. Absolutely.
Actually, legit. Just trying to make a video about it now. It's crazy. Hang on. I think I've just disconnected the.
There we go. Look, I got it. I've got it there.
Cool.
We can plug it again.
Yeah, I've had to make the video that goes with it now that says, because it's you get a free 7-day trial thing, and obviously you need to have a video as well as a trial to say, actually, yeah, this is amazing. Boy, that's hard as well. Everything I'm doing is just too hard. This takes ages.
Sales videos, very difficult.
Yeah.
Hard to get right.
Is the audio all right? I've ditched the £2,000 Rode N2 whatever vocal chain. I've just gone back to the Logitech.
It sounds
£99. Fine. That's what I thought.
It doesn't sound as expensive, but
Well, it sounded really toppy and sibilant last time actually, and I just couldn't be asked to fix it. So here we go. Are you well? I was hearing about your Alexa thing. It's cool,
yeah, I've literally because we were trying to figure out, because I think this is crazy. I mean, for people who basically can't see or have trouble moving limbs, she's just sprained her arm. She had a stroke many years ago, and she can only use one arm, and that consequently that shoulder's been taking all the strain for ages, so it's just knackered. So when she's in bed, she finds it very hard to reach for a phone, and she's feeling a little bit like, oh, what's that noise? Or I'm not feeling very well, whatever it may be, just be able to contact people in case of an emergency because they're living at home. And I figured out how to link this, which is currently on offer at £25, so I can put this in her room And not only can she play the radio on it if she wants to listen to the radio, set alarms, etc., but she could also say, Alexa, phone Nick.
Nice.
And all I had to do is I set up a separate account with only a few contacts in it.
Yeah.
Which I then used to register with an Amazon account, which I linked to this, and use an old smartphone on the same Wi-Fi network. So you could just add that new account.
Yes.
And link that to your Alexa, and then the smartphone didn't even have to have a SIM in it. And then all it does is when you first do it, it says, "Oh, you need to link a phone to this." And then I said, "Well, you're going to get a text in a minute with the PIN number that says that it can link your phone." And she just said, "Oh, the PIN number is this," and there we go.
And you're off.
So now when you
That's
say
fabulous.
Alexa, phone Nick, it shows up as her number on your phone as well, not an Alexa. It's really
That's
clever.
even better.
Yeah.
We use it. You can say drop in between, because we've got one upstairs and one downstairs, and so you can say drop in kitchen or drop in office, and that's the usual way of communication from my daughter now. It's just drop in office. And just,
can I have a glass of water?
Exactly. Which, but I didn't realise you could do it to phones and stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I found this out, this is not very, it's technology, I suppose, not music technology. Apparently, Vodafone have this thing called One Number, which you can actually link. And she happens to be on Vodafone, but I'm not. So, and I tried it on my phone first. So it just seems to work, certainly in the UK. So it's really good for, it's really good for, for people who, and the other thing is we got one from my mum's friend who's lost his sight or losing his sight, and so now he can just call. He could get it to play his books, audio books. He can get it to sort of tell him what the time is.
That's really cool.
And it actually they're finding what's happening now. These sort of digital assistant things are starting to be used quite a lot for people who are on their own all the time.
Yeah,
because it means their conversations can be. I mean, it's in no way a substitute, but for people who have no visitors, it really does help.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's quite interesting.
Their dev kit is really simple as well. If you want to make it switch your lights on or read your emails or just do something specific to you where there isn't an offer, you use the Amazon cloud, but it's almost drag and drop. So you say, well, if I hear these words or these phrases or something like this, go and do that. So if you use even something like if this then that, that site where you can
I know,
literally it's really simple to make it do stuff.
But you do need to have some sort of a cloud account for Amazon.
You'd have to have an Amazon cloud. Yeah, you can run it on one of your free ones, but it sits on a thing called Lambda, which they have, and they've got this just web interface where you just drag it all together. And I've got one to switch lights on and off. They're not, I mean, you can buy lights that work with Alexa anyway, but these ones just happen not to. I just had a switch that was an electronic switch, and you can just do all sorts of stuff. Or you could just program it to say I'm home, and it will fire off all sorts of stuff. Like your Raspberry Pi things can go off.
It's interesting. Really, I mean, I know lots of people are, and I'm not. I'm a bit dubious about the privacy aspect of it, and the kind of the fact that all of our spoken output is being absorbed into the cloud and used for data mining. But I think when you get to 80 plus, you're probably less concerned about that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So it's less because you're generally, and this is a big generalization, you're not participating so much in the online presence, or you're not
completely
doing lots of online shopping, all those sort of things. So I think, in this case, it seems to make sense. But
and you've got it locked down. You've got it locked down to that number and that kind of stuff as well, so you can limit to say I only receive calls from this or to this other number and stuff. Yeah, again, my daughter's kind of similar. I lock everything down so she can only get FaceTimes from me or her gran or whatever. But yeah, you're right. They definitely are. Like the TVs are Samsung. I knew guys working with Samsung who would say they're not monitoring actively and they're not storing this stuff. But it would have been. I mean, but clearly, it would be easier if someone was working there to do such a thing. This is just pure data going to this kind of thing. It's more about there's so much data. How do you process it? How do you get the information out? You've got to open it up to your employees, haven't you? So therefore, whatever they do, it's up to them.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, I agree. I think that it should be closed down. Speaking of daughter, my daughter started her work experience this week. So she's So she's been working like 6-7 hours in a cafe, on busy days. So she's now joined the the world of work. Poor kid, she's got a really bad cold today as well, but she still went to work, which is
Oh, good.
Good for her.
Good. Yeah, we used to get quite a lot when we were running the studio. Quite a lot of kind of work experience in studios is go and get the coffee, isn't it, and the toast and the sandwiches and stuff. But yeah, we used to get quite a lot of that. Mind you, that in the early days of the web and studios like that, it's good. You've got to get in there somewhere. I often wonder people that are coming out of what seems to be really, really good learning, learning studio equipment, the kind of courses you can do now, how quickly and how easy it is to get jobs out of that compared to someone who's just gone in as a runner, or whether they have to go in low level after that, even though they've got that kind of experience.
Yeah, well, I imagine. I mean, you wouldn't trust anybody. Well, I suppose you would. I mean, if you knew someone who'd been present at paid for sessions, whatever they were, then that's a start. Where somebody who's never done that, you're kind of you would probably start them off slow, wouldn't you? Because you wouldn't you wouldn't want to unleash them on a paying client if indeed there are any of those left in the world. I think it's also down to the schools. It's interesting. We were supposed to do an interview with Imogen Heap yesterday, but last minute there was a problem and she couldn't make it. But we've rescheduled, so I'm hoping.
Oh, good.
But when I was doing research, I noticed she went to the Brit School, which is where
brilliant.
All of loads and loads and loads and loads of kind of bit of actors and celebs and
the performance side of stuff. Yeah.
And so it's where you go. And there was also there's an interview which Gaz did with Dave Smith, which will be going up soon from Superbooth. And Dave's talking about how the kids that are coming out of Berkeley at the moment, like all the Lewis Coles and all of that, they all come out, and not only are they absolutely shit hot musicians, they're also really technically savvy. They know how all this stuff works. They know, and there's a whole strata of people who can just come straight out and go into work because they're so good. So they're obviously it's like universities, isn't it? It's like the Ivy League compared to
definitely.
But I suppose the thing at the moment is this is still on merit, whereas the kind of more established educational system is a bit nebulous and kind of nepotistic. There's no reason. Like if you go to Eton, it doesn't mean you're better educated. It just means you're better connected.
Yes, true.
Whereas,
I know.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I know a guy just came out and he specialised in live sound. I can't remember which college he went to, but he walked straight into a job, which I think is slightly more. I can understand that because there's a lot of live venues that need good people getting in there. I'm just thinking studio-wise, if you come out having done a course on mixing and that stuff in general, I think you'd still end up going in. Maybe you'd be preferred to get the job. You'd be preferred above someone who hasn't. I'm not sure. It's a lot about psychology at that level, to be honest. They're keeping clients happy and keeping artists happy and all the rest of it, as well as
if you're the right person. Yeah, totally.
Tech side, yeah. So we shall see. But he walked straight into a job, which is really, really good, really, really good, because that's a lot more. I suppose a lot less about psychology, I suppose, but understanding how live venues work and how the delays on speakers work as they come back down to venues and all the rest of it. It's quite a very practical kind of application of the whole thing.
Oh God, yeah, I've only ever used delay once, and that was when I was working in a theatre, and that was only last summer. I used to do a lot of sound. So last summer I was in a theatre where there were two sets of speakers, and it was like, I need to align these, don't I? And there was like sort of 30 feet between them, and it's kind of. And I managed,
get the calculator out.
Well, no, actually, on the X32, you just kind of go, how far is it? And you dial in the number of meters, so you measure it, and then you just go, it's this many meters.
Wow, brilliant. That's really good. Yeah, I think it was a while ago. I think it might have been Blur in Hyde Park, where they literally had, goodness knows how far back it went. There was probably 5 or 6 different things, and it was very impressive actually as you're walking between them. Because obviously as you walk it changes slightly, but actually sonically it was really, really good. So I've never quite understood how that stuff worked. There's some great YouTube videos of particularly some of the big kind of rock engineers and how they've got the whole how they operate the whole thing and how it's set up, and it frightens me because there really is just one chain there, isn't there? There's like that guy's lead guitar or mic ultimately does come down one wire all the way through to the end, and the idea of this thing just breaking, or this thing in the rack, there's so much cabling going around. I don't think I could do it as a job. I think it would just drive you utterly mad because there isn't really a backup,
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I worked on live sound for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
And, I mean, not on a massive scale. I mean, I did the occasional bigger gig, but I mean, I don't think I ever had anything go wrong, apart from you do get the occasional lead go down. But then you have these kind of situations where, how do you, if there's nobody on stage to deal with it, then you've got to run up there and do it yourself.
Yeah.
There's
I guess it's what you're used to, I suppose, isn't it? It's just the thought of, it's the power that's coming off the stage down to these massive wires. It's like, it's a job.
Well, that's all. I imagine, I'd imagine at Glastonbury as well, it's just Cat 5, and it would be masses of redundant pairs.
Yeah.
So they just, instead of running a kind of, multi-core like this, it's probably like this with sort of 3 or 4 pairs of Cat 5 in it. And that's it. So they can just easily switch them out. And they probably, and to be fair, what they probably do is run it duplicate. So it's just a simple matter of, you just got to go flip the set of inputs.
But I mean, even the thoughts of running radio mics under that situation, I mean, there's only so many frequencies those things operate at, right?
That's not so bad. It's not. I tell you what it is, Scary, because again, going back to this theatre production I did in the summer. No, was it the summer? Easter it was. And that was 17 mics. No, 16 mics, radio mics, and they wanted 17. But the problem is you go in blocks of 8. And most people don't have more than 16 radio mic, because then you have to get another license for another set.
For the extra, right? Gotcha.
So I think actually what we ended up using is that I used my show video stuff, which is just a Samsung, Audio Technica. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's just a System 8.
Right.
And we use that.
Right.
But the problem is they also, because there were about 20 mics, 25 mics, and they would check that enough. Everybody had a headset, but they would change the body packs, so it would just change over all the time. So you'd have different people on different, and it was fine, apart from the fact the System 8 is not designed for fast change. So somebody tried to shove one of the mics in, and it just completely screwed up the connector on one of the really expensive mics. And it was one of mine, and it was like, so we have to fix that. I'd forgotten about that, but
yes, not so good. But no, that stuff. I mean, Cat 5's made a massive difference. I always remember when I started getting involved in more computery people, they just could not understand why there were so many wires connecting all these things together. Why isn't there just one wire that plugs in and does everything? And I laughed. I was like, of course there's loads of wires. You got output jacks, you got the MIDI, and it's like, what do you mean MIDI? They just literally couldn't understand why everything didn't have. At the time, I don't think it was even Cat 5. They were running over coax. Just coax would pop into everything. But just one thing to do everything.
Well, I mean, that's I would like. I mean, we've got the X32 here, and we used to run everything on. Well, I've still got an ADAT interface, which is running an extra set of mic pre's, but it's actually not using the mic pre's anymore. It's just going out to run the monitors. But we've got an SD8, which is a Cat 5 stage box, and it's nice. It's fine, I mean, and it's like, I don't know what it costs. It was like 200 quid or something for eight channels of I/O. Yeah. And it's got the mic pre's built into it as well. But now you get you can get huge banks of this stuff, and it makes it so much easier. The digital desk world of live sound, it makes it so much easier in many ways, but also more difficult in other ways, because it's much worse if you haven't had a sound check. You know what I mean? Whereas with an analog desk, with an analog desk, you can just kind of wing it and just kind of go, But with a digital desk, it's like, is it even configured? There's nothing coming in.
Wow.
So it's much harder. Yes. And I think I remember a story, because I was at a festival about 3 or 4 years ago, possibly longer actually, and some friends of mine were playing, and they were just going, look, the guy on the desk is drunk, or he doesn't care. Can you do it? And I went, yeah, all right. I mean, I was fairly half cut as well, to be honest. And I went up, and it was a Yamaha L deck. I can't even remember what it was, LS something or other. And I had absolutely no idea how to use it. And it was like one of those dreams when you're dreaming and you're on stage with no pants on, and you don't know what the next song's going to be, or actually how to.
Oh dear.
And I was literally, I mean, I think I got it, they said it was fine, and I was like, yeah, but gosh, it was so stressful, because it's the Yamaha, they're great desks, because we used to have a DM1000 here, which is brilliant, but they're really complicated. And again, if you haven't had a sound check, it's not a board to
You got,
use.
yeah. Wow. Yeah, those are. I still couldn't get involved with that. I know it's what you get used to. I mean, but to be fair, the stuff that I used to do as a job doing sessions, I wouldn't have a job doing that either now, because it's all just built into Ableton. All that time stretching and all the hip hop work that I used to do with these artists who just come in with a bunch of great records and just say, oh, that just all got to work together, fit it all together, and then we'll do some mutes. And that's a day's work there. Whereas now, obviously, that's what Ableton does.
Yeah. I used to do the same
so.
thing. I used to work for local hip hop guys who'd come in with a few records and some cassettes or whatever, and you just go make that work. And it was, it was quite. But now, just anything works with anything, pretty much.
Yeah. It's interesting actually, because I was fiddling around with Ableton. I'm a Logic guy, but I've been using Ableton quite a lot, just fiddle around with, and obviously it automatically. That will stretch stuff. Great, fantastic. Drop something and stretch it. The audio quality isn't as good as I thought it would be. Obviously, if you're going to drag something in at 100 BPM and you switch it to 150, it's not wonderful anyway. But even I need to experiment more, because there's different stretching algorithms. But I'm wondering how many people are just not even thinking about that, dragging stuff in and ending up with sonically not as good content as they can be. Now, clearly you can use it to be sonically bad, or not bad, but the sonics of lo-fi house and all that kind of stuff sounds great coming out of it. But if you are looking for a really pristine drum sound or drum loop, it's
Melodyne World. Or some of the other DAWs that have got higher resolution, higher quality stretches. I think Logic's got quite a high quality one, hasn't it? I don't know which one it uses. Does it use one of the Isotope ones? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know if it's licensed. I know particularly for drums and stuff, it works really well. I just think a lot of people just aren't aware they're because you don't listen to the before and after in general. You drag it in and it fits, and that sounds it works, and you don't actually go back to I think they call it warping, don't they? A non-warped version to go, hang on a minute, that kick drum sounds way better on the original. I've just lost half the quality. So now what I'm going to do is spend another 2 hours adding a new kick drum underneath it to replace it. Anyway, these are the thoughts of someone dabbling with Ableton.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think you can mess with the algorithm. Actually, you can mess with the algorithm, but I can't remember what. I can't remember what.
There's like 4 or 5 different ones. There's one called Pro, which I thought was probably the one to use. So. I see Gaz has logged in, but I don't see.
I'm just looking to.
See him.
Somebody's asking about merch, and we do have a Teespring merch store, but the new. I'm posting that in here. Yeah. The new payment system means that we have to fill in so much personal data of all the people who've ever been involved in Sonicstate, phone numbers, their home addresses, their kind of bank account details. Anyone who's got shares over a certain amount has to this enormous amount of data. So we're just going to close it down because we just can't be bothered with it.
Well,
it's
that's
just
crazy.
Too much of a pain.
I guess it's money laundering or something. I don't know. I mean, I know people have to be careful, but still.
Yeah. Andy will be cursing me for sharing that link because now we might have a sale or two and we'll never get paid for it. Yeah, I've forgotten about that. I haven't plugged it for ages.
Does that go out to all the chat rooms? Is that something that goes out through Restream, or do you have to type it?
Oh, no, I have to do it in all of the... somebody asked in the YouTube chat room, so I pasted it in there.
Yeah. I'm logged in as the wrong person.
I don't know where Gaz is. He hasn't emailed yet, so he must be here at some point. So, yeah, last week was a technical hell week. So... turns out that the Pocket Operator modular that I spent 3 hours building was apparently some kind of prototype that wasn't supposed to be sent out. We'll just send you another one, they said. It's like, I don't want to spend another 3 hours building a bloody Pocket Operator. My fingers still hurt from screwing up all of those little bloody knobs. So I don't know what's happening there.
Well, we'll give him
Right, I
some
want to know
time.
where Gaz is. Come on, Gaz.
There he is. Whoa!
Cool, that was right. So that's 16:02.
No,
You get a late mark.
no, I've been trying to log in. It hasn't let me log in until now. It's just been coming up with a blank screen. Yeah.
Oh, God. We're going to have a network, one of those network days.
Oh,
Why
God,
ever
I'm
not?
so sorry. I don't.
No, it's not your
There's
fault.
no-
I can
there's no
totally
way of knowing.
believe that it's probably something else. There's been a lot of DDoS stuff going on cloud-based services recently, and I wonder if that's been affecting things. I tried to I've tried to link the Facebook stream, and it just won't. It's not having it.
That's what happened last week when Facebook had those problems. Yeah.
Right.
One moment, Nick. I've had to change my system. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just going to go and get a glass of water.
Oh, was Gaz gone as well? Maybe I'll sing a song or something. Yeah, someone's mentioned about the Deluge V3, Jimmy, in YouTube. That Deluge V3 is going to be awesome. If you haven't heard about it already, it does looping. So if you've got one of those Boss or loopers, you can now do live looping.
So my other plan this week, this is something else that I'm thinking about, because I've been doing, fly fishing recently, and I've very much enjoyed it. I thought what I'd probably do is start doing kind of like videos of that, but not like, here's me catching a fish, but just me talking endlessly about what I'm doing and what's going on. And then eventually I might figure out if I can find anybody else who goes fishing, or we could do interviews at the same. It's sort of like the Paul Whitehouse thing, but just basically.
That was brilliant. I love the
try and
Paul
do
Whitehouse thing. That's a great idea. The Paul Whitehouse thing is actually very funny.
Yeah,
Very,
well, I
very
don't think
funny.
I'd be able to compete with that, but I'd like to try. I'm trying to figure out a way to do it where I only have one camera and it's not a big production, so I turn up and I do it myself.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm looking at is the idea of having it's called an Insta360 1X, and it's a 360
I know what you
camera.
mean. I was looking at those. Yeah.
And it looks like you can, once you've stitched it, you can actually, because it's a 5K stream,
Yeah.
you could actually zoom in on different parts of the image.
Yeah. I think it will live stream as well. Hey, you're there. You can live stream with it as well, I think, on Facebook.
Hello,
so
guys.
carry on, guys.
I gotta log back in. Okay.
Okay, right.
Okay.
And he's frozen right there.
I was just
so that's what I'm
when you
thinking of doing.
sorry, you can. I was just when you disappeared, extolling the virtues of V3 of the Deluge, because everyone disappeared, and so rather than sing a song, I was just telling everyone how cool it was going to be. I
Nice.
think it's aimed for September. I think, don't know for certain, but yeah, this looping thing that we've been talking about is just amazing. I just saw it working, and it's just like kind of a looping Ableton type thing, but you can have all these loops firing off at completely different lengths. Stretch them on the fly, drop them in, drop them out, take those loops and move them into songs and sequences and stuff. Just honestly, on its own, it would justify, I think, that the use of the machine, let alone the other stuff that it does. Such a good thing. Anyway, sorry. Oh, Gaz, I was thinking that Gaz was being quiet.
Yeah, well,
but
no,
he's
Gaz
just
hasn't been
frozen,
able to
hasn't he?
log in, so I'm guessing now he's logged out, he's going to have the same sort of issue. I hope not. We'll have to see. Yes, for those of you wondering what's going on,
Fishing, anyway, sorry. Yeah,
it's summer, so therefore, everything loosens up a little bit. Lots of people are kind of out working, on holiday, whatever. I'm guessing you're going to have a holiday at some point, Dominic, as well. And then when you're
Greece.
gone, we're done for.
I did a meeting once from Greece, funnily enough, about 3 or 4 years ago. We were pitching for this massive web job, and I had to borrow a shirt from the waiter, and I literally Skyped it, and it was that classic thing where I had swimming shorts on under the table and a shirt on the top, Skyping through this terrible link, but just about managed to get it running, talking about how technically amazing this solution was going to be that we had with the waiter's shirt on. So we can try that. I can come from the beach. Desert island.
Desert island.
Desert
Yeah,
island
well, it's an
disc.
interesting idea. I think it could work. I think we have Gaz back again. Have we got you back? Are you on a mic now?
Yeah. No. The mic. Long story. I don't know why they wouldn't log in, but they could be a culprit for 2 systems I've tried. but I did actually try my iPad, which I'm running iPad OS on it. So that may be why it didn't work, possibly.
Right, it could be.
But news from the front line, I want to share that though, so I can keep that in the show.
All right, right.
Oh, we haven't gone live yet.
Let's do a show.
Okay. Alrighty.
Standing
yes!
by. You're right. Okay, so yeah. All right, stand by. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 583. Recording today, live on Wednesday, the 10th of July, 2019. I nearly said 1989. I have no idea why that came in. It's because I've got 08 and then 19, I think. I don't know why. I maybe I'm going senile. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, this is the one of the summer editions of the Sonic Talk podcast. Sonic Talk podcast is to do with all things music technology, that kind of stuff. So everything to do with software, synthesizers, instruments, electronic music instruments, production, live stuff, all kinds of things. I'm just going to get my level because I noticed my mic was a bit quiet last week, so I'm just trying to get it up to the right level. That feels a bit better. So yes, we want to say thank you very much to Isotope providing a prize this week. You'll be able to you'll be able to win a copy of the Neutron 3. It's Neutron 3 Advanced, so it's kind of a swanky prize. I don't know what that's worth, but it's worth a fair old few quid. All you have to do is stay tuned to about halfway through the show, which runs to about an hour, and we'll tell you also we'll have a winner announced for next week as well. So we thoroughly recommend you stick around. I should actually say, I think that's it. Yeah. What is it? It's Wednesday. It's very hot in here again. It's been very hot and sticky. We've got a big flat roof, and the flat roof just sort of heats up to this optimum temperature and then just radiates. So it's like much cooler outside, but it gets very hot inside. Let's say hello, though. We have a couple of guests this week. We managed to extract people from their summer activities. We have Mr. Gaz Williams, bass player and producer, who couldn't get his mic working, so he's a bit roomy today. How are you, Gaz? Are you well?
Yes, I'm well, but reasons for that are to do with plunging into iPad OS, which is currently in beta. So that has kind of knocked my iPad Pro out of traditional service, I've just discovered.
Okay. Well, that's I guess that's something.
But there is, well, I don't know if it's worth keeping this for a little topic, but it's big news. It is
okay.
Big news.
All right. Let's keep that for a little topic, because then we can that'll give us. Frankly, we need everything all the help we can get, because there's not very much news around at this time of year, and we have to sort of make it up a bit. So anything that's impromptu is perfectly fine. But Gaz, thank you very much for joining us. In fact, we published the Atom piece, because you did a couple of pieces with Presonus. If you've seen the 4.5 update, and also a piece about the Atom controller, because the Atom controller is like a kind of, it's a machiner to the Presonus's software, and it really tight integration. Not only that, it only costs about 80 quid. But if you buy it, you get a copy. No, it costs about 120 quid, I think, or 100 quid. But if you buy it, you get a copy of Presonus Studio One Artist, which costs 90 quid anyway. So it's a no-brainer, really.
Very capable software as well. Very, very good software. Highly impressed. Yeah.
Good.
So, but that's brilliant. That interface, though, that little box, it is really good, because it's not only does it give you like a kind of MPC type workflow inside of Studio One, it also gives you a little bit of complete control kind of ideas as well in Studio One as well. So it's interesting. I just got a complete control M32 today. That's the little baby one, just a little 32 key native instrument thing. Anyway, that's another topic.
Another story. I've been using that as well, but nothing I've been using it with seems to work. Like, I did the Massive X preview, and that hadn't been integrated yet, so I couldn't use it for that. And I've been looking at the Softtube Monument bass, which is really got a lot of girth and heft to it. But again, that's not NKS compatible. So, and it doesn't seem to accept program changes. It's just a nightmare. I mean, why is it so hard to change patches on bloody software plugins? It's ridiculous. Dominic Hawken, do you know why?
Talking of that, well, yes, it's the damn programmers, isn't it? It's just they just don't know what they're doing. Well, happy summer, everyone. There's only 5.5 months left till Christmas now, so get your shopping in. What can I say about synth patches? Well, I don't know. Everyone's moaning about MIDI now that I see. They forget that it's been around since 1978 or something, about latency and how rubbish it is, and the fact that it's been around for what must be 30 years or something and still is a common standard and was invented by Dave Smith gets my vote. So it's probably something to do with that.
Yeah, you could be right. Well, I mean, it's funny that, isn't it? I mean, moaning about 10 or 12 milliseconds of delay in MIDI, yet you're monitoring through your sound card, which if you're lucky, you'll get under 10 milliseconds, but mostly you're going to be up to, say, maybe 40 or 50. Gaz has vanished. I don't know where he's gone, but his video's gone.
No, not to worry. Not to worry. But as long as we got to find out what his big news is, though. Let's maybe ask him now in case.
That's what's cool. Well, here he comes. He's back now. Sorry, you disappeared. Now you're back.
Yeah, sorry. Just have to scramble a new system because the iPad Pro, which I was normally using to do the show, refused to connect over this vMix thing. But the thing is, now I can happily report that once iPad OS comes out, that the most annoying, ridiculous restriction has officially been lifted.
Files?
Meaning you can audio files, the lot. And the fact that that's just been the most ludicrous, I mean, totally mind-bendingly stupid restriction on an iPad for so many years. I mean, you know, situation like you've got a bunch of video cameras and you've got a little Zoom recorder. You're out in the field, you've got an iPad, you've got really excellent editing software, and you record your video cameras and you record your little Zoom recorder. You go back to the hotel, you've just got your iPad, you haven't got a computer with you, and you go to put the files in. You can get the video files in, but you go to get your Zoom recorder, no possible way. Yeah, so I mean, sorry, this is like an old story, but this is so frustrating. It's been such a frustrating thing. And now, thankfully, you can do it.
It's funny, isn't it? This, I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because essentially the reason that all this copy protection was there was because when iTunes came out, it was part of the safeguarding of the digital rights of not the artists but the record companies. Now that Apple and all the streaming services have essentially devalued music to the point of non-existence, this is no longer an issue. So what they're trying to protect has no value anymore, so it doesn't matter. I bet you can't import like DVDs or movie files, which probably have it. But yeah, essentially music or audio files have officially got no value because now Apple iOS supports transfer of it. There we go. How's that?
And
I think... Carry on.
Sorry.
I was just going to... You carry on, Dad.
Let me have this. I'll just finish this point. I was running an SSD drive directly plugged into the iPad Pro. You know, no extra power or anything. Yeah, just straight in, and it worked beautifully. And I just thought, well, hallelujah! Now, finally, you can use an iPad Pro. I mean, I think that's partly because it's got the USB-C specifications
apart from
on the
fact
iPad
that the
Pro.
audio performance is way worse than previous generations of iPads. Apart from that, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm seeing better. I'm seeing better results. I have definitely
but they're
seen
still
better
crap.
results. Well, the thing is, it's beta, so I've got to still.
The answer you're looking for, I think, Gaz, is yes.
Yes.
But yeah,
Okay.
I mean, if only it all worked, wouldn't that be great? Now, I mean, and I totally get your excitement because I think it is a really big deal that we can. I mean, which is mad that it isn't even a big deal. It's ridiculous. Sorry, Dominic, you were going to come in there.
No, I was just going to completely agree. I mean, and the stuff you can do, even I've got an iPad Air 2. FabFilter have just put their filters out on it and all this kind of stuff. You can do amazing things. and yet I still end up going back to the computer because of these stupid limitations. The other one being the lack of headphone socket, which actually originally, I'm not even going to. Well, I mean, originally I was one that said, I probably won't need to bother about that. Maybe we'll be all right. We can always plug a dongle in or something. And now it's just ridiculous if you can't get an audio out. And I think it was you guys that was getting so annoyed that they'd actually called it Pro, because it was just so far from being Pro. It's a nice usable instrument, but it's a nice tactile thing to control other stuff, which is Pro. But yeah, and the thing with the music rights, I mean, as soon as they removed effectively the copy protection off the files themselves, which was a long time ago when you could download unprotected files, I mean years ago, they should really have just opened up the whole thing anyway. I think behind the lines here, because this is an iPad-only iOS update, isn't it? I think they're trying to converge the three systems, the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac desktop, into a programming environment that you can almost squirt out any of three a one-size-fits-all universal app for all three. Now, obviously, you can't take advantage all the way of some of the particular nuances on both, but in the same way that you can write an app for an iPhone and an iPad, which will work. But I think this is all part of a process that's bringing Xcode, their development system, into line, into one universal development system, and probably the watch and probably the TV and all the rest of it, because it's become very disparate at the moment, and quite hard to write. You have to write again from scratch if you're trying to take something that you've just done on an iPad and make it on a Mac, for example.
I was just looking for, because my new phone, which is this Xiaomi Mi 9 thing, which is really, really good. I was banging on about this last week, but I don't think I mentioned it on air. So basically, I bought this on Amazon, which is a brand new phone. It's 128 gigabytes. It's got a 48 megapixel rear camera and a 9 megapixel front camera, Samsung screen, Sony CCD and camera. 128 gigs of RAM, cost me £279 with a dual SIM, right? But it's only got a USB-C port and no headphones. And I thought, you know what, I can live with that, because otherwise I would have just bought a second-hand phone. But it came with just a little USB-C dongle with a headphone output, and it's actually not that big a deal. And I've got another one at home which I can charge through as well, because I leave it by my bed and I listen to audiobooks while I go to sleep. So it's not the end of the world, but I don't know whether those things, the USB-C to audio, work on Apple devices. They probably don't. It doesn't say. So I just wanted to throw that in there before you jump to the gas.
Yeah, I know. I mean. So people say, someone said I'm a fanboy. I'm a fan of the idea of what the iPad has promised from the beginning. And we did Sonic Touch for 30-odd episodes where we researched and reviewed everything up until that point. Okay, that's a few years out of date now. But ultimately, there was a kind of a conclusion that we sort of came to with iPad. And that was that the inherent limitations kind of ultimately will scupper its kind of practical uses. So it's going to be interesting to see now going forward whether that actually changes. I seriously think it can. It will. I'm sure it will. But just, I think that's why this is such a big deal, really, because, the iPad, like, I take them to rehearsals, I take them for recording sessions. They are always with me, and they're super useful devices, albeit scuppered as was with this limitation. So anyway, that's it. It's big news. And I do think as well, from what I've heard, that the iPhone if you run the beta software, you've got more access on files as well on iPhone as well, but they're not making a big deal about that. But I think people have been getting file access. Yeah.
I mean, as we know, the one big thing, there's a really good editing software which has just had an update. This is not really music tech, and we will move on in a second, which is called LumaFusion, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. If you saw any of our coverage from NobCon or Synthplex, all shot on and edited and uploaded on iPads, but getting the footage in there is a nightmare if you're using external cameras. And we have to use all sorts of Wi-Fi and stuff now. But be able to just plug an adapter, an SD card, and just bring in that footage at USB 3 speeds or lightning speeds, rather than at the speed of over a Wi-Fi network. Which, say you've shot a 10-minute piece on 2 cameras, that's going to take you 2 hours. over Wi-Fi to get that footage in if it's 4K
Yeah.
for high quality. Now it'll be, well, not, it won't be the blink of an eye, but it'll be a workable amount. So all really big stuff. Okay, well, thank you, Gaz, for bringing that up. That is really good, and thank you for taking one for the team by putting it on one of your current machines.
I know.
It's like first lesson of music technology. Don't upgrade unless you absolutely
Yeah.
Well,
I got sick
one
of
of
it though. To be honest, I was protesting and I stopped using that iPad. I'd stopped using it. I was annoyed with it. It was in the naughty corner and I was kind of cursing it out every time I walked past it. Also, this iPad Pro, it kind of, me and Sam Battles, Look Mum No Computer, were legging it up this road and it went flying out of my bag. It went flying out of my bag and it went along this road.
Oh dear.
And I was like, oh well. And it's got all scratches down the sides. But you know, it's proper relict, earned in battle.
Right.
Proper battle stripes, battle scars, you know, earned. So yeah.
There was a funny moment with one of my funny moments with Gaz actually, where I don't know if it was this iPad. I think it was the Noodler or something. You decided to live stream yourself demonstrating the Noodler or this new bit of kit with your iPad. And the audio was crackling.
Oh, yeah.
And I was watching this video and I thought, oh, hang on a minute, the audio is really crackling. He doesn't realise. I'll text him. So I texted Gaz, who didn't, I think, have my number in his phone anyway. And it took out the entire live stream. This message popped up. Text received. And it just froze on the screen. This thing, and that was it. You were gone for the next 5 minutes trying to get it all back up running.
Ouch. Ouch.
It was extreme, but it was properly helpful because it did allow me just to kind of sort everything out.
Well, let's just jump in, because one of the first topics of this was going to be summer projects. Anyone? Because you know, as the summer comes, you know, you either kind of ignore the stuff, or you get on with some things that perhaps you didn't think you would, because you know, maybe some of the people you usually work with are away or whatever. So you get a bit more time on your hands. I see, Gaz. You know, we'll take the what you've just talked about as your input to that summer project for now, and then we can come back to some other people as well.
I've got other things.
Yes, I'm sure you have. So, like I was saying, you know, some often, you know, people that we also see lots of sales and software and sound. Typically, you get like lots of sound libraries and stuff coming out in the summer, which is people sort of getting ready for a burst of creativity. I want to, Dominic, have you got like a summer musical project that you've got in mind that you're thinking when I've got a bit of downtime?
I've been obviously I've been trying to finish this app, which is really annoying, but in that it's taken up so much time. But I've been starting to listen to some techno recently. So I was into dub reggae for a lot. So I was doing a lot of that kind of dub stuff, which is, I think, where we started talking about me coming on Sonicstate. And that was really I went doorless effectively. I decided to change everything up away from Logic and just go and see what happened, try and change up my routine, because everything was just becoming a little bit normal. And I got a little bit more into modular, which had already been in, bought a few bits and pieces and did that. And now just listening to just regular stuff really on Beatport and YouTube. I've always liked kind of probably more techno-oriented stuff. And I've always kind of just sort of dismissed it really as fairly simple to make and fairly easy, you know, and it's just fours, kicks, drum and some noises and some builds and stuff. And there's been some that's been coming out recently, which is just amazing and really, really clever. And I was wrong to completely dismiss it. So that whole thing in my spare time, when I've got half an hour at the end of the night before I hit the sack, I fire up Ableton, which is my other new change up in the last sort of 4 or 5 months, where I've switched from Logic to do more stuff in Ableton. And I have a crack at finishing some techno tracks, which is really
right.
Really,
okay, cool. Well, my plan is I want to get a looper. I'm going to try and borrow either yours, Dominic, or Andy's got one. I want to try an RC505 and just see what it's like. Me and a synth and maybe a Ventris, and just sort of make a few things and consider about doing some livey kind of performance things based on that. Much simpler than my previous setup, because it was such a pain in the arse to prep and set up and rehearse all these different aspects. So I'm wondering about that. So that's going to be what I was hoping to do. And well, the other music tech, there isn't a music tech thing. I'm thinking of starting a fishing channel.
Hey!
So we'll see how that goes.
Oh Goodbye, Nick. We'll lose you to the fishing world.
I don't think so. I think it would take. It's taken how many years it's taken for Sonic to get to 150k subscribers. So we'll see.
There's a batter joke in there somewhere.
I just
can't
think
get
it'll
it,
connect. You know, I think you and Fish, and it's just going to go off, and we'll lose you.
We'll see. So, what projects have you got lined up there, Gaz? Have you got anything ready that you're looking for? I know you always have, but is there something specific? Summary.
So like fully booked at the moment, which is great. What summary stuff? Festivals. So a lot of rehearsals for festivals, which is very summer based. Just started work on a new album producing, which is really interesting, for this Irish singer-songwriter called Colin Regan. I produced one of his albums in the past, but this time he's doing an album entirely consisting of folk songs and all sung a cappella. So there's going to be only his voice is the only thing, but we're going to see just how much we can use technology with the caveat of it being only with his voice. So it's been quite nice, you know, to had a little listen to Medulla again by Björk, who employed a similar voice only thing. But I think because of the nature of the songs, which are really old folk songs, there's some like shanties as well. We're going to just see what we can do with arrangements and various things. So that's really exciting. So that's a 2-week album project. Starting next week, so that's kind of going to be.
That sounds like work.
I'm really curious. Oh yeah. It's. Oh, what do you mean? You mean more like sort of just
just sort of
project?
Yes, that sort of thing. I'm going to paint my shelves tartan. OPZ. God, that looks even smaller than I remember.
Like a slide rule.
Beard length.
Yeah.
That has had a very significant update, which
the sampling
from
thing, yeah.
Superbooth. Sampling is now in here with the additional bonus of being able to USB it into your phone or your iPad, and you can sample directly from YouTube digitally, directly in with just that one cable. Now, that is dynamite. Also, because it works in the other way as well. So when you want to do your mix down, you can do it entirely digitally through, through your phone or your tablet. So pretty significant. Obviously, the OP1 didn't have that, did it? You could bounce things down and make a tape, and then you could grab that digitally. But you could do this in real time. So something that has to be said, though, that when you're using it as an audio interface, it doesn't really function as an audio interface. It's really is more designed to be the sampler. The only way you can get playback to come out of the audio here, coming from, say, your phone, is when you're in the sampling mode, there's actually like a kind of monitor preview. But that means you can't.
Well, okay, then maybe this is a good point to introduce one of our videos then, because this is sort of ties up with the same small creative thing, and I think this is one of the best videos I've ever seen.
Hey, Critter, the organelle's here. Looks like there's some
for a
big
music technology
news.
product, I mean.
Oh boy. Okay, let me just. Nothing's happening.
Hey, would you mind plugging in the power adapter? Thanks. Yeah!
Update 1. Battery power.
Does that mean no more power adapter?
Nope, it's still an option, but now the organelle is fully portable.
Cool.
Sounds like an early Zappa album, the music in the
The
background.
MIDI gods!
Move over just a little. No, you move over. I guess we're just too big.
Hey guys, have you ever tried the 1/8" fitting?
Let's try it. Oh, that's much better.
I could watch the whole thing, but I'm not going to, in the immortal word. But yeah, this is the update to the organelle, and I've seen them. I know Charles Chicky Reeves, he's got one, and he was totally blown away by it. It's a very similar concept to the idea of one of the teenage engineering things, in that it's got, essentially, it is a Raspberry Pi inside, more or less, that runs a custom OS with pure data patches and a custom hardware thing, and it's much more solid. People use it for processing audio, you can use it for synths, you can use it for effects, all sampling, all kinds of stuff. And this is the new update, which adds. Let me see. Sorry, I didn't quite get to that. It's got a bigger processor, more RAM, batteries. Speaker, and it'll run pure data patches which you can write on an environment that you can work on in your on the Mac or on a PC or on a Linux machine, and then save the patches and load them in. It's quite sort of, you have to be quite committed to that sort of lifestyle, but it feels like it's a really nice thing. It's I think it's about $600, so it's not cheap, but it seems reasonable. I'm going to come to you, Dominic, because you've got some standalone stuff there. Have you seen one of these things? It's got great little.
Not hands-on. Yeah, I've seen them in on screen, and I've heard them on screen, but not in real life. And I've been really, I love it. I'm really, really tempted. The thing that put me off actually was the price point. I just felt it was just a little bit too much for me to justify something with a Raspberry Pi in it.
I know what you
I'd
mean.
I'd love one of those things. I think it's designed brilliantly. I love that kind of wooden keys and everything, and I love the idea about being able to tinker with it and plug it in, and the sounds I've heard coming out are brilliant. But to me, it's just when you can compare it to, say, a lot of the sort of $200-300 things that are around, it was just a little excessive, and I couldn't justify that cost. But I'm sure, I mean, from what I've heard, it is amazing, it is lovely, and I'd love to own one.
It reminds me in looks a little bit of the there's a Danish, I think it was a Danish synth company, and I can't remember what they were called. But there's they've got somebody, maybe the chat room will remember. I can't remember, but yeah, I know that that Charles Chicky Reeves was really enamoured with his. I don't know, Gaz, have you ever played with one? I mean, it looks like right up your street.
Yeah. I've come ever so close to buying the version 1. Now this one is super tempting, isn't it? A chap wrote a thing called, I think, is it called ORAC or something? It's like an OS for it, which allows you to do really lots more interesting things. That I think came out a little bit before this, but opening up the functionality much more. It's been a really interesting little project. I've been watching it develop over the different updates prior to this coming out, and it was really heading in the right direction. So it makes a lot of sense for Christian Guittari just to kind of now expand it again, because if you check this out when it first came out or in the early days, you might not be aware of a lot of the extra developments that it came. Like initially, whatever patch was only always restricted to the 4 encoders. So whatever patch you were using, you had to, everything was designed with this very kind of fairly limited. But now you've got multi-pages, everything. It's almost like a workstation now in terms of
the idea of programming something like this on an interface. I mean, I'm see if I can find an image.
Bear in mind that you can plug a monitor and a keyboard and mouse into it, and it's just treat it like a kind of like a computer. So that's the thinking, really. Whack a screen into it, whack a mouse or
yes, okay. I'm just looking for an image, some big images. Oh yes, you're right, actually, because it's got an HDMI port on the back.
Yeah, so that
is a Pi, basically. You can see the layout essentially.
Yeah.
So it's got,
which is great if they've put in some great A to Ds in there, and it sounds wonderful. Certainly sounded great, and it's obviously got a lot of development in there, and there's a lot added, as Gaz has said. So it is very tempting, but it's up at that. It's up, I don't know, just slightly too high price bracket for me.
But I think this is the tip of the iceberg, with all these like embeddable computer things that are coming out from the Axolotti, the Bella boards, the Elk stuff that we looked at Superbooth. Essentially boxes with buttons, keys, and sliders or pads,
same deal,
or whatever. There's gonna be a load of them coming.
Well, particularly now. Particularly now because the new Raspberry Pi 4 came out, which I have here, which is right here. Which unfortunately,
amazing.
It's this is basically, you get them with up to 4 gigs of RAM. It's got way more processing power. It's got USB 3, which is awesome, and gigabit Ethernet, proper gigabit Ethernet. Same sort of price. Problem is the bloody board has changed, so you can't put it in original in the existing cases. You got these two. You got these two. I don't know what they are. What are they? Oh, yeah, because it'll run 2 monitors. So you've got 2 HDMI ports here. So that changes that. So unless I get the drill out and start modifying my cases, I'm sort of a bit stuffed of putting it in the stuff I've already got. But hey,
so yeah. What's the state of play with Pi kind of all in? I guess you could be running Bitwig on it, couldn't you? That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could. I mean, 2 monitors. You could. I mean, it runs 4K. It'll run this thing will run a 4K monitor. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. You could actually stick it to the bottom corner of an actual 4K monitor, and it wouldn't obscure hardly any of the image, and yet it would be running the image. That's really meta. But yeah, I like the sound of that. Kind of fun. Okay. Well, anyway, I wanted to put that in there. That wasn't actually the first story in sequence. We got a couple of things actually. We've got Ableton Loop has been announced. It's back in Berlin. Weirdly, and I don't know how there seems to be people are getting a bit uppity about this or wondering what the logic is. They're running it on the same weekend that Superbooth is running next year, which is April the 24th to the 26th. Superbooth runs the 23rd to the 25th. So it's running at the same time of year. I mean, I wonder if that just means there'll be more people about and it's actually really a good idea, or it's a really stupid idea. We're not entirely sure. I wouldn't have thought that Ableton would have done it without maybe a chat with the Schneider's people and to see whether it worked. Because obviously it means they could both have more people coming to perform and share maybe some of that. Because if one flies one over, then they could be performing, so it cuts the costs a little bit for performers. That might be it, because that was my one criticism from Superbooth last year was there wasn't quite enough variety in the performances. I would say, there was quite a lot of men of a certain age looking at modular equipment and not really making perhaps good music, as I would call it. I mean, I'm not saying it was bad, but it wasn't a very broad musical palette, shall we say. So maybe that's it. I don't know. What do you think, Gaz? I mean, you were there this year, so.
Well, I mean, Superbooth being Superbooth, I guess you're always going to be looking at a similar kind of music, I guess, to what the people are interested in. But I don't know. I saw some pretty different things at Superbooth. But I think this is crazy to put it at the same time as Loop, I think, personally, just because the best thing about Superbooth is the sense of community. And, if anything that sort of breaks that up just seems a bit of a shame, really, for it.
Yeah, or it might enhance it. I should point out, we've actually got... this is someone called Silent Green. I don't know if these images will grow. It looks pretty... I mean, looks like a great venue. It's the sort
is that where Loop is taking place?
Yes, it's sort of... it just looks... Oh, there was another image which doesn't seem to be there anymore. There's a really big hall inside, but it's not there anymore. But yeah, that's apparently where it's taking place. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I can't imagine the momentum that Superbooth has built up is going to affect, because I think Loop is. I don't know how well attended or how, in relative terms, whether Loop has more attendees than Superbooth. I would imagine not. I would think Superbooth has way more attendees. So there must be
7,500 attendees this year.
Yeah, I think Loop is a bit smaller than that because it's a higher ticket price, I think. So maybe it's a bit different. I know, Dominic, you're thinking maybe now you need to block out some time in your diary in April to get over to Berlin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this.
Do it.
Yeah. This next one is I missed it this year actually because I was chatting to so many people you guys are Div Kid and all that. I wish I was there. I really wish I was there. It looks really, really cool. And so yeah, from now on, I'm going to pretend to be a more proper YouTuber, a more proper presence, and just get out there and have a look at this stuff. Just have to watch the wallet when I'm over there. I have one question actually, whilst we're talking about Superbooth, which is just completely unrelated, but Gaz, the motor synth, you saw that in real, with the motor synth. How noisy is it? As in when it's not plugged in, making a musical noise. How noisy are those mechanical those things?
Not massively. They're kind of they're from drone They're motors taken from drones, so they're quite whizzy. Do you know what? It was so noisy in Super Booth.
Maybe that's why they turned it up so loud.
Because I know how noisy drones are. I mean, drones are, forget it. I mean, you're not going to take the sound off the drone.
That's a good point Nick is making, actually, though. That was the loudest stand in all of Super Booth. They had it. It was banging loud, which felt right when you see these motors spinning and this absolutely enormous sound. But yeah, so sorry, I think noise probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be negative.
Really
so I'm gobsmacked at how well it's done, and how I'm brilliant. Good luck to them. But I just suddenly thought, hang on a minute, there's 4 or 5 of these motors in that. That's a big old drone to be vibrating on the table as I'm trying to cut through the cutoff filter.
I wonder if they run at the same sort of speeds that drone propellers run at, or whether they're dialed back.
Well, I would say they'd be about 440 times a second, wouldn't they, for 400. I don't know.
That's a very good point. Because there's a strobe on it, so it's actually so it would probably be half an eighth of the speed, or maybe. I am
very good
totally
point.
Guessing here, but
the vibration bit is mitigated, though, because as they spin so fast, they actually create a tiny little hover pad. So actually, it hovers about an inch or
like
so
a gyroscope.
off the desk.
Sorry to just completely side swipe the conversation, but I keep meaning to ask you, and I thought the viewers might be interested as well. But I've
just realised that.
Oops.
We've lost you, Nick.
I think we've lost Nick at the moment. So someone's sticking. Oh yeah, you're back. Sorry, we lost you then, Nick.
Did you? I do beg your pardon. Yeah, we got a competition for Isotope. If you want to win Neutron 3 Advanced, we're looking for the hashtag Modern Mixing, the hashtag Neutron 3 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. At which point now I will play the Isotope.
Presenting Neutron 3, the modern way to mix. Bring your workflow into the 21st century with 8 modern mixing tools, all at your fingertips in one mothership plugin. Starting a mix can take a while, but with the all-new Mix Assistant, Neutron can listen to your audio and quickly suggest a custom starting point for an individual track, or set levels for your entire mix. Shape sounds like never before with the new Sculptor module. Match audio to a target sonic profile and instantly sculpt it to sound more like itself or like something else completely. Reach out and touch your audio with Neutron's immersive controls and visualizations. Neutron 3 comes equipped with Visual Mixer, a tool to help you effortlessly manipulate the landscape of your mix. Neutron 3, the modern way to mix.
Yeah, and do check it out. You can always download the demo at isotope.com. Head over there. You need to set up an account, but that's cool. We got a winner for the last week's competition. It's a guy called Jonathan Camarillo at Johnny DeBaker, and he's posted a rather lovely GIF of an old Akai reel-to-reel with the VUs bumping and the hashtags that were required to be chosen. So if you want to get in touch, Jonathan Camarillo, Johnny DeBaker from Austin, Texas. Or Ossitin, Texas, as he says in his bio. Please do. So, yes, we should probably. Gosh, I didn't realise the time had gone. That's amazing how much time we've gone through. That's a lot of waffling on my part, I no doubt.
You were late starting.
Let me see. I think. Oh, gosh, I don't know where to go. I'm going to put this out to you guys. Which where would you like to go topic-wise? Have you got any? Who's done the most prep? There's
the War Pigs video looks good.
The War Pigs video. Let's do the War Pigs video. Right, let's see where that is. That's this one. Yes, this is Tara Bush. Latest release. She's doing a sort of single every month. And it goes out on vinyl. This is the video that she's done with Maps. Really striking visually. And it's a live performance of a version of War Pigs, the classic Sabbath. I think it was off their first album, which I actually have. It's got a Sem 2 voice running sequence. And an ARP Odyssey Mark 1. And also MS-20. Let's just put her voice through it. You got to watch the whole thing, and then she does a bit. There's a sort of guitar solo which is representing the. Is it Tommy Iommi? Tommy, is that what his name is? I can't remember now.
Tony Iommi.
Tony Iommi, where she sings into the MS-20. It's just really nice, simple, 3 synths, dead simple. But yeah, and also check out her Patreon. She's doing stuff, and I just thought it was nice to put in there because I know she's been on the show a few times, and we like to support our friends where we can. And I think her Patreon's going well. You're an old mate of hers, aren't you? So that was very, she's done. It's quite an interesting treatment, I thought.
Tara's fantastic. The way she's embraced not just synthesizers, but all kinds of aspects of technology is amazing. Because whatever she does is always imbued with an innate musicality. I don't know if she was classically trained or not, but she can really sing, like an operatic style as well. So she's got a incredible range of talents as Tara. So and it's brilliant seeing this. This is a great indicator of that. But I have to say it's a bit funny because I play in the Charlotte Church Pop Dungeon, which is, Charlotte Church was a famous child singer who'd sing all classical styles and was associated, well, the voice of an angel with a very goodly kind of stuff. And we've been going out doing this filthy kind of hybrid sort of music, including a version, and it's still in the set, of War Pigs. So it's quite funny that Tara's chosen this one as well. It's a very different version, but it's just a coincidence. But when we play it, it always goes down a storm. It's still an incredibly powerful song, amazing. It's cool. It's good, and Tara is always worth checking out. 100%.
Yes, I would totally agree. And that they do they release these singles if you're a patron of a certain level. I don't think it's very much. You get an actual vinyl copy of the single as well. Each one comes out in their t-shirts as well. So, excuse me. Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's very different to the kind of stuff that perhaps you or I do. I don't know what that visceral kind of aspect, and I like it.
It's just great. I always end up just adding way too much stuff to everything I ever do, rather than stripping it back down to its basics and just let's make some tunes. I'll put some kick drum in, put some hi-hat in, do this, do that, or let's add a couple of percussion loops, or let's add this, let's add that, or I could do with another synth line. And then 40 tracks later, you've got this thing that's actually lots of quite good sounds and very few brilliant sounds. There was a great Mark Hollis quote, R.I.P. Mark Hollis from Talk, who said, I forget the exact quote, but it was along the lines of, if you're gonna play a note, make absolutely sure that note is needed, and if you're gonna use a certain sound for it, make sure you use exactly the right sound, or just throw it all away. It was along those lines. It was much better put than that. And so the idea of having, I think it's 3 synths going on there, and maybe one of the synths was processing the vocals. And it said it was a live video. I don't know if it was live recorded as well as in the audio. It was all one go. I mean, it's an immense sound coming from, obviously some great synths, but that kind of stuff just makes you realise that bass line that you've just spent a little while programming could probably fill the whole track if you did it right, let alone anything else. Takes me back to this thing I said yesterday. I talked about last week. This
Sherman
Bank.
That'd get you there.
This reminds me of, the kind of gnarly, nasty, fat, thick, gorgeous sounds that seem to be coming out of the synths on her vid. I also really like the mic treatment. So there's 2 mics going on there. I see one I think was going through, was it MS-20 or something? Yeah. And the other one just going somewhere through some distortion, but kind of very close mics. Just sounded great. The whole thing for me was just how large it sounded for how little instrumentation there was in there. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Just brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant.
That's the sort of thing that synths can do. That's very true. But yeah. So yeah, check that out. I think I Speak Machine is what she goes under. So if you search that out, it will probably get you to the Patreon links and what's not, and you can get all of those things. I think. Oh yeah, there was. Did I actually do this? I'm trying to remember now. FL Studio 2.0 20.20. I don't know of any
20.
DAWs that are at those sort of figures. 20.5 is out, and it's not the oldest DAW. I think it started about 97, and it comes with a synth called what is it actually called? Have I actually got a video of it somewhere? What does that one do? No, that's not it. Synth called, oh god, I am completely I've completely lost it. Flex, I think it's called. I'm pretty sure Flex. Yeah, where's it gone? Flex free synth that comes with it as well. And people are raving about it. And this, I'll just play a bit of the video of this quickly. It's kind of a preset synth with movable macros, and it does sound pretty good. And yeah, if you want to get hold of it, but a lot of people swear by FL Studio. In fact, I was looking on the power users site. This gave me a bit of a. I was sort of scrolling through all the power users because I think, well, you know, because it's not a commonly. I mean, it's quite very commonly used, but it's not something that you necessarily see people using for you know, main productions. But then I spotted one of the power users is Mr. Mark Tinley right there. He's one of them as well. I've never used it really. I know it's Mac. It is Mac and PC, isn't it? Has anybody else had any image line action? Because they're very highly thought of.
No, I haven't. Although I agree with you, I'm watching a load of YouTube vids, which is I just have YouTube constantly on in the background when I'm not working on music, when I'm coding and stuff. And there's a whole bunch of people, especially people who are primarily just kind of making beats and working with rappers or artists. So they're just constantly making background stuff and then sending it to me to artists looking for beats. They all seem to be using it, and it sounds great as well. It sounds really, really good.
Yeah, a lot of people use it for creating beats, don't they? And then bring that into their DAW from choice. You're absolutely right there. It does sound like that could be there.
But it was that thing, wasn't it? When Rebirth first came out, and just how amazing that whole thing was. The next step really was FL Studio, or Fruity Loops as it was back then more. It was before the session view of Ableton Live came along. So it's, you know, as a sort of non-linear way of working and building patterns and then being able to trigger patterns and manipulate patterns. I think historically it kind of sits in that point in time, you know, and I think it's really interesting how, even though it's developed so much, it's still at its core is still that way of working, you know, at its core, at its kind of, you know, even though it's much more like a DAW these days. But, you know, it was occurring to me as well that, gosh, yeah, what year did it come out?
It's 97. I was thinking it had been around on sort of Windows 3.1 or something, but no, 97, I think.
What year was Rebirth then?
Now you're asking. I'm gonna have to look that up. Rebirth.
I thought that was a little bit. Yeah, because. But I mean, it was really brilliant to see Akai releasing The Fire earlier. Was it earlier this year? Which was the
1996.
96, yeah. So, yeah. So it was that sort of development. But yeah, Akai releasing the standalone controller for it. But only this year. It's taken a long time. That was the first time I'd seen any hardware that was specifically focused on.
I guess it makes sense because they are Akai Fire. Let's have a look. I can load that up. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, that's right. And you're right. I'd forgotten about that. But I guess it's a beat making. I mean, it looks like a beat making thing. But look at that sort of step sequencing. So that's the.
But that's the key. That's what I'm talking about. That is the essence of FL Studio. The step, you know, multiple rows step sequencer kind of thing.
That looks like a great controller. Lots of buttons on there.
It does really good. But it's a bit like the Atom that we were talking about earlier. It's really nice to just whip something out of the box and plug it in and not have to map anything, and everything is ready to go. So I think, you know, FL Studio users over all these years have been out in. It's always had great MIDI programmability, but everyone would have had to have just spent all that time mapping away. So it's about time they had something, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, there seems to be a lot of it to go around. I mean, it's because it depends on your platform of choice, I think, really. Because if you probably started out early on Windows, then you might well be an FL Studio person, because that was one of the few that was around. Because we didn't really have much dual platform stuff at the beginning, did we? Now there are, we've got dual platform stuff for people like Cubase, and I guess Logic did, but I remember Logic going to the PC. And then coming back, it wasn't and then they cut it off at 5 point something or other. But I don't remember it being on the PC for that, Logic for PC being on that for that long. I wonder what that was, actually. Logic.
They bought Creator, didn't they? That's it.
Yeah.
They had Cubase and C-Lab then Creator.
I'm just looking at Logic Play.
I thought they just bought it and moved it straight to the Mac, actually. I could be wrong. And it was just that C-Lab or Creator was sort of left behind on the PC briefly. This is back in the Atari days, though, to be fair, when it was just most of the Cubases and stuff were working on the Atari.
Run Logic on Windows. God, I'm just trying to see. I can't,
yeah, there definitely was a Windows,
find,
wasn't there?
I can't. Yeah, I can't find the versions there. Yeah, because the search just turns up with loads of ways of running it in parallels or in dual.
PCs were really basic back then, though, really, really basic, and then and all the creative designers or musicians or whatever were the Mac fanboys back then. So everyone with an
there wasn't much choice, was there? It wasn't.
Just had to buy a Mac instead and shift onto that, really. So, but I do remember a lot of people moaning when it was removed from the PC. So it definitely ran for a while. I just can't quite remember the history like you. But yeah,
I think another thing with FL Studio or Fruity Loops was it shareware? It certainly was something that you could download for free way back before you could.
I
pretty much anything
else. I
else.
don't know, because I wasn't really a PC user back then.
I think it was shareware. So, it's quite interesting. It's really come from that world, and the fact it's lived to this day, and it's probably bigger than it's ever been. It's just a really cool story. I'm sort of a toast to ImageLine, I think. Well done.
Yes, that seems like a good. What a good way to top up. I'm getting so hot in here that it's kind of the air conditioning is just doing absolutely nothing. I don't know what it is. Right,
people saying that Logic 5 was running on Windows in the chat room. Cubicar was saying
Logic 5 was the last version. Yeah,
I think 5 was the last.
But what I'm saying is it didn't run from version 1. It ran from something.
I gotcha.
Where did it start on Windows? Because it was I think it was originally a Mac only, and then it got ported.
Yeah.
And I imagine what happened was they ported it to Windows, ran out of cash, then sold to Apple.
Yes.
I suspect that's what happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was no commonality in it would have been two completely different code forks and code platforms. It would have been absolutely no commonality. Whereas now you can actually, with stuff like Juice or whatever, you can compile for different platforms much more straightforwardly. Totally. I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, we still know. I mean, any sort of software release is if a software release ever comes out on time, or to a point where say yes, it'll be ready by October. You just know it's not. It just doesn't. It's because it's so bloody hard to make software, especially complex software, that just works in every case and is bulletproof.
Yeah.
And we've seen that before. It's the same. With Massive X, when we saw that come out last week. I mean, I'm not saying it's not bulletproof, but there were things missing in the GUI and the feedback that they just didn't put in because I guess they just didn't have time to add that for that release. And it had already been put back. We did talk about that at quite great length last week, but that's just an illustrative point, I think, was all I was trying to make. Right. Okay. Well, I think we should probably we could probably call it a day. I think we're pretty much there. So, Gaz, thanks ever so much for joining us and digging out the old iPad to get online.
Well, funny enough, I mean, this is my old iPad Air now, which has been when iPad OS comes out. Sadly, this is not included, so this is for the chop, so to speak. However, I took it to a session yesterday, recorded a big multi-channel session into this iPad Air, 3 20-minute performances concurrent across multiple channels, maybe 12, 13 channels, and it just was effortless. It was amazing. So it's kind of funny, isn't it? This, as you get these technological and consumer shifts, all this stuff that happens, but
the old stuff still works.
to levels that are kind of way beyond what anyone can use still, so it's just, I just wanted to mention that, because it was like, if a lot of people are starting to sort of think, well, I've got an old, it's not worth selling something, is it, like an old iPad, and get 50 quid for it. It's a much more useful, like, sort of auxiliary tool. I use all the different ones I've got for,
well, me too. I mean, because we use
controls.
we've got an iPad 1, original iPad, which runs the Switch. Because it's just a MIDI controller. We just run it with MIDI Designer Pro, which I can't remember which version. It won't go to the latest version because it's only I don't know what iOS it's working on, but I don't connect it to the internet anymore. There's no point, because it just nag me. I don't want to.
But if it just, like, you just put it to purpose, just running a single app, like you do there, pretty much. Like an iPad 2 will run Sampler. That's Sampler without an E, which is the all-time greatest iPad app. It'll run Sampler perfectly. My iPad Pro doesn't. But I mentioned in that, it stopped working. The sampling function doesn't work because Sampler hasn't been updated, but it's updated beautifully for an iPad 2. So if you get an iPad 2, there's a place in Bristol that's selling iPad 2s that they got a job lot from NHS for 50 quid for iPad 2. And like, whack Sampler into that, and it's, it's an amazing instrument. I know we've had this conversation before, but it's just, it's relevant to me because I've been doing a bunch of stuff with old iPads in the last few days. Just like, it's the plus side of the
as long as the iTunes store
obsolescence
continues to offer obsolete versions of software that goes with older versions of OS, that's fine. But if they get kicked off the store, then you're knackered, aren't you?
I'm going to jailbreak all the old devices now and just and move them into that world. I think it's
it makes sense. Anyway, Gaz, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure as ever. And also Mr. Dominic Hawken, who I can
thank you very much.
Is fully branded up with your snuggle sounds. Does that mean you're live now? Are you live?
Not quite. I'm just doing the vid that goes with it. But there's a few mentions in the chat about it. So if you want pre-release copies or you want to try it out, I could really do with your feedback. So just tweet me. Which side am I? This side. Just tweet me at Dom Hawken and say, give us a go, and let's have a try. So it's iOS only, iPad or iPhone, and I'm just giving out some beta test things. I'd love you to try it out, actually, Gaz. I'll send you a copy quite happily. You just get a little beta update, because we're at that stage where it's release ready, unless anyone finds anything. So far, so good. It comes through test flight. But tweet me and I'll follow you, and it'll all work. And Sampler, what you were just mentioning, Sampler's brilliant on the iPad. But even as a controller, like a MIDI controller, I don't know if Lima runs all the way back to the very basics, but just running it as a MIDI controller for that kind of stuff. Perfect use of an old iPad that's just not doing anything. Even if you've got two sliders going, it's just brilliant to control any of the old keyboards or software stuff. Fabulous.
Totally agree. Well, I want to say thank you very much again to everybody. Let's say also, if you want to win a copy of Isotope Neutron 3 Advanced, remember we're looking for the hashtag Modern Mixing and the hashtag Neutron 3 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's the hashtag Modern Mixing, one word, and the hashtag Neutron 3, the number 3. To @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. via Twitter. We will also want to say thank you very much to all the folks in the chat rooms, in YouTube, and also on. I didn't get the IRC in there because I haven't. You can see I haven't actually. That's the interface, the streaming interface. Never mind. Thank you to everybody in the IRC as well. Always a pleasure. But that's it. We want to say thank you very much for watching. That was Sonic Talk number 582. See you next time. Bye bye now.